Skeletor and Master of the Universe!
We need to have a talk. Hey everyone. I know this video seems to be kind of out of the blue, but God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm gonna talk about anime and He-Man and a whole bunch of other stuff right now because I just finished watching the new Masters of the Universe, and boy oh boy, the more I watched it, the more I kept thinking, gee, this is why anime is winning. Now, I know you guys are used to me basically doing airsoft content. I promise I have some stuff coming out, but I figured I put this out because god fucking damn, the new He-Man series was disappointing as hell. Now, don't get me wrong, please do not spread hate about this and do not threaten the people who made this. I'm pretty sure they're all talented people who basically crunched 1,000 years to basically make such a nice looking cartoon, but just because it looks nice doesn't mean it's that nice. Now, before we begin, this is gonna have a lot of spoilers. Honestly though, I don't really think it deserves that warning because a lot of people have already done it, but fuck it, we're doing it now. Spoilers. So yeah, I was mildly spoiled because I saw people reviewing it and I kind of already had some reservations about the show. For one, when the trailer came out, I was excited, but the show was missing the word He-Man in the title, so that was a giant red flag. But I decided to press on and give it the benefit of the doubt, and here I am now, mildly irritated and a bit sleep deprived, and overall in the end just rather disappointed. When I look at He-Man, I look at a series that could have had potential, but in the end didn't because powers that be up top were pushing down to basically force more rhetoric essentially into our heads and down our throats, and it's pretty disappointing. To basically summarize, people say that it's basically The Last Jedi, but now He-Man. From my point of view, He-Man is a beautifully animated show with a lot of nostalgic throwback to the original show, and that's kind of where it ends there. I'm gonna quickly go over what I don't like about the show, and then I'm gonna go ahead and compare it to another series, a different series that does remakes well while also trying to peddle what they're trying to push inside this show. So let's go ahead and talk about the bad things about the show, and there's a lot of it. First off, the very weird character style they went with this one. For one, they killed off He-Man, big spoiler, but even then his sort of power-up sequence kind of struck me odd. It was kind of like Sailor Moon. You know, when we think of He-Man, you think of quick power-up and then you shoot a laser beam at Gringer and he becomes Battle Cat. But in this case, he had to have a whole animation sequence, which sounded awesome. The music score is great, but it only carries the show so far. And I feel like the voice for Adam is rather milquetoast, to say the least. He sounds like some random guy, like some random white dude off of the street of San Francisco. That's what it sounds like. The He-Man voice sounds great, but it just doesn't have the depth and tone that I'm looking for. So back to character style, Teela becomes the new main character, and I don't understand why Hollywood has to keep taking female characters the masculine lesbian way. It doesn't have to always be that way. It's kind of disrespectful putting LGBTQ in a box like that. You know, they can be anyone, truth be told. But I digress. And, you know, she's a lot more muscular, very masculine, which is kind of weird. And we'll talk about this when I compare it with the anime that I'm going to talk about. The plot is very strange. It seems like it's almost always heaping praise upon Tila. And I saw a couple reviews that talk about this, and they're absolutely right. This entire show, for 5 episodes straight, it keeps comforting Tila and not the other characters. Like, for example, Orko. Orko is literally fucking dying and fucking dies, and there is, like, one scene where they bury him and only 2 people are crying. Not everyone else. Like, where's the sympathy for him? He fucking gave his life. What about He-Man? Aside from his parents throwing a fit and Tila throwing a fit, that, not that he died, but that he lied. Yeah, ignore the fact that your best friend is dead, vaporized, literally. Yeah, you're angry at him because he tried to keep a secret identity. This reminds me of a video that Lumo Shroom made about the Invincible series, about Amber, you know, basically treating, you know, Mark the same way. And I can't help but find parallels with this, where it seems like the show just keeps, like, treating Tila as the darling child. And another thing is, they keep pushing a side character as, like, a love interest. I see so many unnecessary, like, scenes where they either show them holding hands or eyeing each other up. At that point in my mind, in, like, the 4th episode, I was basically saying, get a room and get on with it. Just because I wanted to get it over with. And it was just... So yeah, that's that. And then there's the very weird plot story, and there's also the underlying not political, but I guess, like, themes that they want to push. Like the lesbian one and the strong independent woman thing. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But overall, the show just didn't feel like He-Man. It just felt like a 21st century show wrapped in an 80s skin, and it did not sit well with me. And that's a shame, because I was really hoping that it wouldn't go down this route, but I tried to give it the benefit of the doubt, and it stomped it into the dust. And frankly, I'm rather tired of it. So now, what is this anime series that I keep comparing in my mind with? And the series is something that I watched when I was in high school, and looking on it now, I can't help but see what He-Man could have been. Now, the series I'm talking about has nothing to do with magic. Actually, it sort of does. So the series is called Space Battleship Yamato 2199. This is based off the original series Space Battleship Yamato, but it is basically a remake. And every time I look at that show, I see what He-Man could have been. Now, what do I mean? Well, for starters, Space Battleship Yamato honors the original source material as best it could. For example, the art style is there. It looks like it came out of the 60s, with the goofy ships, with the goofy paint jobs, the goofy ship design, like, not just ship designs, the robot, the cast and crew, the fashion, all screams like 1960s, but with a modern twist. And I kind of like it. It's refreshing to see something brought into the modern light like that. Now, He-Man obviously does it similar, but sort of not really. And, you know, fine, I'm not gonna harp on it too much. You can only harp on one's art style for so long. But then let's go into the rest of why I think, you know, why this show could have been. And then I look at the story. Space Battleship Yamato's story from the remake and the original are basically the same, parallel with a couple offshoots. That's not inherently a bad thing. I think when a remake is, well, obviously remade, you don't want it to just basically be a copy and paste. You obviously want slight change. You know, for example, with the episode 1 of Space Battleship Yamato, there's the Battle off Pluto. In the original series, it was one battleship and a whole bunch of destroyers, kind of reminiscent of Operation Tengo. In the new series, they realized that was a dumb idea. Let's add some cruisers to the lineup. Not like it's gonna help, they're all gonna die anyways, but you know, at least it seems now a lot more plausible than sending out one capital ship with a bunch of destroyers. So there's that. That was a nice throwback. And not only that, they improved on the original in subtle ways. Back then, it was only 199 crew members. Well, in lore, they upped it up to about 1,000. Makes more sense for a battleship, despite how automated it is. And it's those subtle details that touch on and improve on the original series that makes it more refreshing. Not like this. This basically takes what is the original and stomps it into the dust and then creates its own image in this world. For example, they destroy magic, which is kind of crucial in a show with a magical sword. And they turn the magical sword into a MacGuffin. And overall, they basically treated this with very little respect, making up shit as they go. Even introducing characters that we have no clue who they are, who feel like that they're just a pity diversity hire, and feel like they are almost borderline Mary Sue. Now, granted, we don't know much of their backstory, but knowing how Hollywood writes this stuff, they're going to be perfect in every single way. And if they give them a single flaw, they're going to be eviscerated by the other side. So there's a no-win situation, but the right way is to give them a flaw. Anyways, going to the character design, Mamoru Kodai, Kodai, Yuki, freaking Okita. Those characters, look like improved versions of themselves, and it's like seeing your favorite characters all over again. And they even, push a little bit of their agenda, in a very subtle way, which is a lot more palatable. For example, the robot is a lot more pervy in the original series, so they toned him down. And they even managed to gender bend one of the characters. Obviously a side character, but then make her a more central character. And I'm talking about Yamamoto, who in my mind is drop dead gorgeous and is a pilot, which is another plus in my book. And yeah, it's probably one of the top 10 waifus if I ever make one of those lists, but I digress. So they even managed to push a strong independent female character who doesn't look like she decided to inhale an entire, jar of protein powder and then bench press 1,000 pounds and an elephant on top of that. And actually gave her some depth besides being always broody and I hate everything, that sort of vibe. Kind of like what The Last of Us 2 did, but maybe I'm seeing too many parallels. The point of comparing the anime to He-Man is to basically bring up the reason why, in general, people are fleeing to anime. And it's because they just seem to do it better. They understand why people watch anime, and obviously it's escape. It's a bit of escapism, but in a world where where it's like close to 2,000 for just a single bedroom, and it seems like we're hustling to nowhere. So a little bit of escapist can help, but this did not feel escapist. It kind of like felt like it's like, oh no, you gotta suffer a little more. And it was rather disappointing, and I don't know why I keep going for the nostalgia bait. I'm just a gullible person, I guess. But yeah, I'm rather disappointed with how the series turned out. And if they're making a part 2, I don't want to see it. I'm just gonna see what the review says, and if it's good, I'll watch it. But I have no hope for the series, considering what I just saw. And every time I see the He-Man series, I just think of all the other anime that did it right, from the escapism aspect, which is Evangelion, from the strong female protagonist, which is Hayao Miyazaki movies, and the remake aspect, which is Space Battleship Yamato. Every time I look at just modern remakes, I see the failures, and I see why anime just keeps getting more and more appealing the more they keep making these blunders, and why people are wondering, why does no one want to watch or read any new Western media? And the answer is pretty simple. They just don't want to accept it and, bury their head in the sand and pretend everything is all right. Anyways, it is about 20 minutes worth of rambling, so I'm gonna cut it here, and I got some videos to work on. But with out of the way, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.